Officially on air, everybody. I've started it. I hit the start button, so there's no going back, everybody. We're already a few minutes late, and I apologize. That's my bad. So I own that. I know some of you. I posted the link in the old Hangout, so I hope you follow us. Sorry about the technology glitches, but what can I say? Technology is great till it stops working, or human error, and I'll definitely take the hit. Welcome, everybody. I want to go ahead and get started, and I just want to preface it by saying I'm Kathy Klotz-Guest of Keeping It Human. I'm a marketing storyteller and comic improviser, and I wanted to do I'm going to mute you, everybody. Can you mute if you accidentally got in the call? I'm going to mute you. I want to go ahead and introduce our guests here. I thought it would be so cool to have a panel of all women who work with marketing and humor and comedy and have a background in that. I've never seen an all-female panel on this topic, and I thought, I love Amy's work. I think her videos are great. I love Andrea's work. I know she's an improviser. And you both rock. And I thought, how cool would it be? Because I follow you women, and I thought, I've never met you, but I love your work, and how cool would it be to actually have a panel of all women talking about adding humor to marketing, because I've never seen it. So with that, I'm going to introduce my guests and let them tell you about who they are. Our first guest is Amy Harrison, calling in from the UK. Thank you, Amy, for your patience. If you want to tell us who you are.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Amy Harrison. I'm based in Brighton in the UK, and my website is harrisonamy.com, where you can find me. And I'm a copywriter and content trainer. So I do some writing for clients, copywriting, sales copywriting. But the big thing that I sort of have moved into from demand and request is helping businesses in-house train their employees on how do we tell a good story, how do we stand out in this world of digital noise, how do we write content that's interesting that people actually want to read. That also promotes what we do. So a lot of marketing content and training people to do it themselves as well.
Yeah, perfect. Andrea, tell us about you.
Yeah, so actually I started out in improvisational comedy. Well, I did that on the side. So I actually started out in engineering, so kind of weird, geeky start for me there. But I did a lot of improvisational comedy, and it was a lot of fun. And when I was starting my blog, I decided I wanted to be a little different. And I thought, you know what? There's a lot of boring blogs out there. It's so dull. I just wanted to have a little fun. So I decided to blog as one of my characters, Grandma Mary. And, I thought, I don't care if anyone ever reads my blog because I'm having fun. Yeah. So yeah. I just was doing that, but also realizing that I was providing some good material, good tutorials, good information. And it was something I wanted to see out in the marketplace. So started out doing that, and actually lately that's been great. It's been growing, and it's I think when you have humor in marketing, people share your story more freely, and I think that it helps you really get your message out as long as you've got solid content and things behind it as well. But now I've actually been doing some stand-up comedy, so that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
Which
interesting.
Is amazing. It's really, really good. I love your stand-up.
It's funny. I started out in stand-up, and then I did comedy, and then I moved over to improv, and improv was the last bastion for me. I actually cut my teeth doing stand-up, and I did a sketch show called More on Life, and it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about I think for all of us, about how you connect with an audience, and when you take them on that journey and use humor and you lower the defenses, you get your message through, and I think that's a big part of, I'm sure, what we'll talk about today. So for those of you, again, apologize about the technology snafu, my bad. I posted the new link in the Google Hangout, so you can go ahead and click that link and follow us here. And if you miss it, do not despair. We are live, so we will have the recording of this, and you can watch it later, so I apologize for that. But then again, I am an improviser, so we're just kind of going with it. I wanted to ask you, ladies, Andrea, you broached the topic. What's funny to you, and why do we need humor so much in marketing today?
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting because humor is so subjective, and I've actually been really looking at this a lot, and it's interesting to me what can be funny to one person is offensive to someone else, and I think that humor sometimes is borderline offensive, but it's also it also usually what my favorite type of humor points inward and points to yourself and pokes fun at yourself rather than pointing to someone else. So, I think that there's a lot of a lot of a lot of ways that people can relate to that more when you are kind of pointing to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that one of the things that I love, and particularly with humor in marketing, and with humor, and the humor that I like, there's a real honesty about it. One of the things that I launched Amy TV March last year, doing sketch shows around teaching content marketing. And one of the things, a bit like Andrea, when you were saying, I don't care if anyone's going to read this because I'm having fun doing it. And there was part of me that I was very much like that with the videos. I thought, okay, this is either going to ruin all the credibility that I have, or people will get on board and they'll like it. But one of the things that I liked is that it's a way for me to express very honestly about the silly things that I do, or that self-deprecating humor in a digital world where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of front, and everything's perfect and everything's shiny and everything in everyone's business is great. And so I love, doing funny sketches about what people do when they procrastinate over, planning their content, and I really like that. And I think that's the funniest humor for me with my friends and family. It's like, tell me the dumbest thing that you did, over the last couple of days, and let's laugh about it. And there's something really fresh about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really true. I think one of the things in marketing that we probably all see as marketers is for so long it was, we have to have this perfect front, and we're all human beings, and we don't sell to businesses, and we don't sell to buildings, we sell to other people, and people laugh, people make mistakes, people have frustrations, they have headaches, and humor to me is about humility and empathy. And when people see that, oh my gosh, they get it, they get our frustrations as customers, there's something that you change the relationship with your audience. And it's a beautiful thing to see us now finally talking about humor in marketing, when for so long, even B2B, conservative B2B, oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. And I think we're coming to this place of, well, why not? It's just people.
Well, I like what you say about it changes the relationship, because I think one of the things that it does is if you go create something funny about a problem that your customer has, makes your customer feel better. They're like, oh my God, I thought that was just me. I thought we were the only ones kind of struggling in this area. It's like, no, everyone's doing it, and what are the chances I can help you out with that? Help you solve it.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue question, which is there's so many ways to approach humor, and I think, Andrea, you said it well. Humor can be subjective. It's both universal, but it's subjective in the way that it's implemented. So I would ask both of you, who's doing it well? Is there a company out there, before we get into best practices and why, who makes you laugh and why?
Yeah, I have to say some of the funniest. So I've been watching a lot of humor and in advertising. I mean, I loved the Old Spice guy, of course. He was like one of my favorites, of all time. And I loved when he just recently did the Ice Bucket Challenge. I think that was a great thing, but because those kinds of things get shared, and then Poopery. I don't know if you saw that commercial. That was freaking hilarious. It was, I mean, I saw people sharing that. I mean, if you get people sharing your commercial, and you don't have to pay for advertising, you just have to pay to make the commercial, and it was wildfire.
Last time I checked, the Poopery video, the original one, I think that had around 30 million views. Like, it was just crazy. And one of the things, like, because I think, I love the Old Spice, I love Poopery, a couple other ones, have you seen the Camp Geiner?
No.
Okay, so you have to go and watch. You have to go and watch this video. It's an advert where basically this company, they will sell. They send like tampons, sanitary towels, and sweets direct to your door. But the premise of the advert is that there's a girl away at summer camp and she's the first one to get her period. And so instead of it being like embarrassing, they flip it to the extreme, and this girl like rules the whole camp because she knows what's going on. She hands out all the supplies, and it totally goes, she becomes sadistic. And then she gets really annoyed because this other company comes in and takes away all her power. But I love it because it's one of those, you watch it and you think, wow, are they really doing this? And then you think, yeah, that's ace. Like, there's totally smashing taboos that we shouldn't be talking about this, we shouldn't be laughing about it. And for me, that kind of, it has that honesty effect. It's like, this is the sort of stuff that happens that we laugh about, like with, you know, with my girlfriends and stuff.
Yeah. That's a great one. That's a great example. And I love that they're not only smashing taboos, but they're I don't see enough products aimed at women where we're laughing. And, you know, I can't tell you how many women really resonated with the Dollar Shave Club ad last year that went viral. And when their inaugural coming out, here's who we are in the world, so many women said, I love that humor, I'm going to buy that product. And they buy it not for the men in their lives, they buy it for themselves because it's a great razor, and they loved the humor around it. And I thought, why aren't more companies doing that with products aimed at women? And I think that's just really interesting. So I'm going to go check that out. It sounds familiar. It reminds me of I think a Kotex commercial that was done about a year ago where the head of the agency with their British accent, very proper, was reading the letter that somebody complained about.
Oh, yeah. That was it. I remember that.
And she farted on air, and it was hysterical. And it was like, I bet you think women didn't do that, did you? And I think it just broke a lot of just barriers that women do laugh at, you know?
Well, that's it. I mean, I think, you know, like some of the funniest conversations some of the most outlandish, sort of brutal conversations that I have are with my girlfriends, you know, behind closed doors over wine. And it's just like, and there's been times where, you know, either a boyfriend has sort of overheard, and he's like, I am shocked at the things that you talk about and the things that you laugh about, because it's like a no holds barred, anything goes kind of conversation. It's like, you know, that's what we're like, though. And that's why I love these adverts, because they don't perpetuate an image of all women are, you know, perfect and beautiful and they smell nice all the time.
Right.
Because we don't.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I had a client a few years ago, and they sold to moms, busy moms. So they sold children's gifts to busy moms, and we talked about doing something really fun. And at first it was, well, you know, let's make this sweet. And I said, no. Moms are imperfect. We're harried. I'm a mom. Sometimes I can barely manage my schedule, let alone my kids. And I thought, how funny. Let's show moms in a very imperfect light, and it's okay. And what if a mom bought, you know, shades of gray, then she bought a book for her son's friend's birthday party, but she mixed it up, and she got the wrapping wrong, and the 9-year-old boy, to his surprise, got, you know, shades of gray. And it was hilarious, and moms loved it. And I think we don't have to have these perfect saccharine endings. We just have to have human endings.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have kids myself, but a few of my friends have just, you know, they've got like 2-year-olds, and I just love that honesty. Like, there's no pretense of them being, you know, like, I mean, they're great mums. But I love, like, we were text chatting the other night because we all live in different places, and my friend has twins, like 2-year-old twins, and she will send a picture out, and then she'll take a picture of one of her twins, nominate someone, and go, which one is it? How well do you know me, and how much do you like my kids? Which twin is that? And then we all have to go, oh, is it Nina? Is it Ella? It's 50-50. Should I wait till someone answers first? And it's just like, we joke about this sort of, you know, it's not like, oh, you know, everything's beautiful and precious, and that's what I love about humor. It kind of strips out the, like you were saying, like that pressure to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure to have it all, and I think that we can't. And you know, it's nice when someone admits that they aren't. But I think that I think it's interesting in marketing because sex still sells. It that, you know, kind of hot person up there with the lifestyle and looks like they have it all together, and it really still sells. And I think that you're just attracting a different audience. And I knew that when I was putting on Grandma Mary wig and, you know, dressing up, I knew that I would be alienating certain people from my business. I knew that some people wouldn't work with me because I was a little weird. But you know what? I was okay with that. I was like, you know what? I don't want to work with those people. And if they're going to be totally, you know, if that's their attitude, then they're not my people. So it's hard to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. No, it's true. I've got my hat on. I've got my, you know, kind of fun hats on. I think that's really true. I think one of the beauties about doing that is that you do attract the people who value what you value. And I kind of came to the same conclusion, which is why I really resonated with your Grandma Mary. And I love that you bring that into your work. And I love, Amy, your videos because, you know, to me, if customers don't resonate with that, then the content they probably want you to produce is going to be very boring, and it's just not gonna connect with any audience. So I'm okay with that. If that's a litmus test for our clients, I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's like a branding filter as well. You're taking that stance to say this is very much a big part of my personality, because that was something as well. And I was nervous when I put out the first videos because I was saying to my husband, you know, okay, whereas before with a blog post, if they don't like the content, then they don't like the content. I was saying, if they don't like this, they basically don't like me, because it was so closely integrated with my personality. And you just kind of have to take that plunge and think, but this is me. Like, I at the moment, I am the only person in my business doing the work, so I do want clients to have a good idea, you know, and they know that I'm not, you know, if I'm working with them, I'm not running around in wigs all the time and, you know, with an electric buzzer handshake and you know. But they like you say, it's a filter. They resonate, and the ones that don't, we wouldn't have matched anyway, but it would be further down the line.
Right.
only thing, I've got a whole cupboard full, and the only thing I got was my mustache.
I got my Batgirl thing out. My kid and I did a whole like themed Halloween thing last year, and so I had to be Batgirl. You know, I had to break out the superhero thing. But
that's awesome.
Let's talk about best practices, because I think there's so many. Oh yes, and Andrea, yeah, I want to see what you draw.
I was just playing. I'm just not. I didn't. I think I clicked on you. I was going to click on me. So.
No, that's all. It's all fun. Let's talk about best practices, because there's so many ways to have fun and add humor and levity. And I think people sometimes over-agonize about it, think they have to go way over the top or be super funny. And I want to ask both of you, sort of in your experience, what are some tips that sort of maybe take some of the fear out of for people of how to get started?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll go first because I'm the queen.
You are the queen.
You're clearly the queen.
So, yeah, I think that best practices are really not to, if you are going to use humor, not to single out someone else. There was, you know, make sure that it's more inward focused. People can get offended. You know, it's really challenging. Don't, you know, obviously stay away from political, from racial, all that politics, all that stuff. And there was actually a kind of, and do some investigation. I mean, it's hard to be, you kind of have some feeling of being flipped sometimes, but pause and reread before you tweet something out. You know, there was that recent Why I Stayed hashtag that I think it was Domino's or some pizza place said why I stayed, and really they didn't realize that the hashtag, so they made some flip comment like why I stayed, you had pizza, and it was they didn't realize it was the hashtag was being used for domestic abuse. So, you know, definitely can really backfire if you're not pausing and just trying to capture and be funny. And there is a rush sometimes to, you know, be in the moment, but you have to reread it and make sure.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that because you've got that fine line between being funny and being offensive, and so one of the things that I've found that I naturally tend to do is you don't, and you'd be surprised. Like, I've talked to people who are trying out humor, and the first thing that they want to do is make fun of their customer, because they kind of, they know their customer, and they're like, no, they find it. I know someone who'd find this funny, and it's like, yeah, but just stay away. Like Andrew was saying, don't single anyone out. So definitely don't insult or make fun of your customer. Like Bacardi a few years ago did a campaign for, you know, their customers aimed at women, you know, sort of, I would guess between early 20s, and their whole campaign was like, do you want the hottest accessory this summer to make you look really popular? What you need is an ugly girlfriend. So basically, and then this was a whole brochure, like, get an ugly girlfriend for your pool party, an ugly girlfriend for your, and it totally bombed, got shelved, and then social media found it again recently, and sort of it all blew up again. So that's something you don't want to do. You don't want to make fun of your customer, and I think if you want to get started and you're worried about, you know, where do I go, think about the things that you might joke with your client or with your customer, but about the problem. You know, because quite often when I talk to, you know, coaches or whatever, they will say, you know, a lot of our sessions are very lighthearted and we do laugh a lot. So look at the things, what do you laugh about with your customer in relation to the problem that you're solving? Because if you can build rapport and empathy with humor around that problem, they're going to trust you. They're going to think, this person totally gets me. They understand what I'm going through. They make me feel better about myself by not making me feel like I should be perfect with this problem. And, you know, they are probably the right person to help you solve it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, my experience is when you can laugh at a problem, it shows that you get your customers' issues. And when there's so many great videos. I mean, one of my favorites continues to be Kinaxis, and they're a supply chain vendor, and they liken the relationship with your vendor to a boyfriend-girlfriend thing, where the girlfriend's high maintenance, but the boyfriend can be high maintenance too. You know, right? In my world, if I were writing it, the boyfriend would be high maintenance, and because it's a relationship, and all relationships are funny and have a human sort of element to it, and it's very much about the relationship with the vendor and how it can be really taxing and complicated and make your life harder versus easier, which is what a solution's supposed to do. And it's a really great video. Yeah. And I love that you're you know, we're talking about empathy, because I think humor is so much about saying, I get your pains, I'm going to laugh with you. Now that we've talked about it, let's talk about how to fix it. Yeah. And the other thing I really love is I love, in the world of improv, and Andrea will relate to this, and those of you that have an improv background will relate to it, I love status shifts. So I love flipping expectations upside down. That's what I love. And a few years ago, I had a client in the sort of serious semiconductor space in Silicon Valley, very serious. And most of the designers that they create software for are men. But they had a few women. And I said, let's elevate the status of the women designers, and if women could design anything with this software, what would they design? What if they designed a programmable boyfriend? What would the boyfriend do with a honey-do list? What would that do? And it was actually very funny, because you took a group that was sort of underrepresented, a customer group, which was women designers, and you elevated them to the status of being in control. And that kind of flipping of expectations, I think, works really well, because it's totally unexpected.
Yeah, and it definitely, flipping things around or surprise is always a good part of humor. Yeah. And, you know, you were talking about the, Amy was talking about what do you laugh about with your customers. I saw a recent local ad here in the Denver area where it was also kind of bringing those customer expectations into the car buying process. So it was a car retailer, and these people came in and said, yeah, we're interested in looking at some cars. And they said, oh, yes, right this way. And first you're going to start out with our first person over here, and they flip to that person. They show them, like, kind of with someone on a rack, you know, like those torture devices, and then you're going to spend X amount of time in negotiations over with John here, and then, like, they showed another guy with them in the gallows and, like, whatever, and then finally you'll go to finance, and they showed this guy with the, like, the pin chairs, you know, and he's like, you know, and that's like that, you know, you're bringing what the client expectation is and making it funny, and then saying, you know, hey, we're not like that. So I think it's really fun to kind of poke at industry things that are perceived problems for clients.
Yeah, that's a really good marketing angle as well, is to ask yourself, you know, what do my customers generally not like about my industry, or what do they get suspicious of? I mean, I remember reading about an advert that did very well years and years ago, so it's probably a well-known example that I think it was a plumber, or it was some kind of sort of manual labor service that they would come to the door, and their advert said, "We will turn up on time smelling nice." Like, all the guys who work for us will turn up on time and smell nice. And that was it. But it resonated and it stood out because, you know, people were tired of you know, either plumbers, or I can't remember if it was electricians or whatever, turning up late, you know, turning up, you know, sort of not smelling as fresh as they could do. And so that's a great way to think, you know, is there something, look at the industry that you're in and think, is there something that my customers tend to mistrust or not like about working with people in my industry, and how can I show them that I do something different?
Yeah. I think also, too, one thing that I really like is when we can change the nature of a conversation, and expectations. There's always expectations around who a company is, and when a company can go the other way of what's expected, you change the perception of who you are, and that can be very powerful for starting a different kind of conversation. You know, IBM did it. You see Cisco with Tim Washer over there. They've done a great job with some of their videos. Anytime you can get out of talking about a product, but put the product in a really strange situation, either some kind of historical or future or back in the caveman Paleolithic era, get it out of its normal context, then you change, I think, the conversation about that product. It no longer becomes about features and benefits, which nobody cares about, but it becomes about something really different.
Well, look at Old Spice. Yeah. Like, Old Spice, as I remember it, it was something your dad had for like, that was at the back of the cupboard for years, and I don't even know what Old Spice smells like, because the Old Spice that we had, I don't think it was supposed to smell like that. You know, it was cheesy Christmas gifts, and now suddenly it is cool. Like, it's cool again, and they totally changed the conversation around Old Spice because they flipped it, like you said, but then they took it to the extreme. If they'd have tried to do it seriously, it wouldn't have worked. It would have been, oh my God, cheesy Old Spice, look what they're doing. But they totally just threw it completely off the other end of the spectrum, and it worked so well. Yeah,
yeah.
So here's an interesting thing that I think about often is women in humor and marketing and men in, you know, in humor and marketing. Is there a difference on what people will accept? Do people want funny women?
I think about that too, and I do, sure. And I'm sure Amy does too. And you know, it's something that's been noodling at me for a while. You know, I think for most of us as marketers, we're looking at the world through the marketing lens, so we probably laugh at the same things. But that 10%, 15%, I don't know what that percent filter of gender that colors the way we see the world, I think that's really interesting. And I do find myself laughing at a lot of the commercials, the social media, the social media posts that are targeted to men, and I do sometimes feel like the products aimed at women, they're a little bit more serious, they're more sweet, they're more sentimental, more emotional, but maybe not as funny. And I think, do they think, is there a bunch of people sitting in a room thinking that women wouldn't appreciate humor? Because they'd be wrong, but I don't know. I mean,
I think, like, in my, you know, relatively limited and recent experience, what I found with is it's a lot of it is just a confidence thing. I think that, you know, and which is understandable. There's a huge amount of publications and studies that have been done to prove that women aren't as funny as men, because we need these studies in our lives, and so we get these messages around, and like, even the conversation, like, even the fact that we're asking the question, like, do people want funny women? It's like, no one's asking, do we want funny men? And so I just think it's a confidence thing. Like, I know such funny women, but I also know very, very funny women that would think twice before cracking a joke in a professional setting or at work because they feel like it could undermine their credibility. I think, and I hope, that with the, with the advent of the internet and sort of a more ways that people can broadcast themselves and their personalities, I think you'll get more funny women coming out, and then I think that will feed into, the confidence of others to give it a go, to try it out, and so I think it'll increase, which would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great point. Every time I get asked about a study, I go, well, first of all, I don't know what the methodology that proved, quote unquote, that women were less funny. Who did we ask? Did we ask, somebody's grandpa, and was a convenient sample of two guys drinking beer? I mean,
yeah. And why do we need to know? Like, why would what?
Yeah, I don't care, right? I mean, and I also think there's something about. I think, Amy, you said it really well. I think what I see is women separate more their personal and professional. And men don't do that, but men have a longer history in boardrooms and in the higher echelons of companies than women do, so I think it's a little bit more natural. But I also think women, there's a lot of funny women that just need to have the confidence, take the filter off, and I also think women tend to self-deprecate more, and I think it's okay as a brand to have self-deprecating humor once in a while, but as an individual, women have to watch that a little bit, because men don't do that as much. Men don't self-deprecate, and they don't understand. They don't understand why we do it as much.
And it's funny when you're saying about that a lot of women will make that split between their personality and their work, and it just made me think. I used to work in a job, and then towards the end, I knew I was leaving, and I didn't particularly like it, and then I changed my ringtone on my phone to I like country music, so it was Johnny Paycheck's "Take This Job and Shove It." And which just made me laugh every time it rang, because I thought, yeah, I'm going to hand in my notice soon. But then I forgot that blend of like work and personal life, and I took it into a meeting, and the phone rang, and I was thinking, is everyone making the connection? Like, I should change that back to just the regular ringtone.
Yeah. How about you, Andrea? I mean, you posed the question. I think it's a great one.
Yeah. So I think that I think there is a difference in what I don't know. I guess I feel like there's a difference in what's acceptable. Like, I look at how even just looking at comedians, there's a lot more male comedians that are more well known than female ones. I was trying to even like find a list of female ones. I was like coming up with a really short list, and I'm not saying that it's not because they're funny. I don't know why that is, but you look at the top comedians out there, Louis C.K., some of those, just like Jerry Seinfeld, all those. It's a big list of men, and obviously, like, Joan Rivers, of course, was one of the most well-known ones. Tina Fey isn't necessarily a comedian, stand-up or anything like that, but like, I think that there's just a few less women in general, and I think that also applies to marketing. And I think that sometimes groups of women are more interested in having a woman come in and speak, do a humorous type of presentation. But I think it is still a little bit more of a man's world to. I don't know if that's due to us holding ourselves back, or just people feeling more comfortable with a guy being funnier.
I don't know. I think it's just the way. I think it's just an evolution. I think that's just where we are at the moment. I mean, you mentioned Joan Rivers. I love her, and she had to work so hard. And when you think about it, she didn't work hard and do kind of girly comedy. She was acerbic and pretty kind of like, ooh, did she just say that? And she was very much did what she wanted to do. I never got the feeling that she tried to shape it to compete with a man's world or whatever. It's just that's what she wanted to do, and it's almost like she looked at the industry and thought, this is the way that the industry is. I'm going to play as well as I can within these rules to do what I want to do. And I think that's where you have to be, sort of, so rather than tailoring it for men or for women, there are more men comedians, there's a lot more men in marketing, and that will change, I think. But at the moment, you've kind of got to think how do I work with it, because it's there. That's it. That's how the situation is.
Yeah, and I think it is changing, which is great, because I do think women bring a certain empathy to the table. I'm not saying men don't, but they do. I think women just have a different sort of sensibility about it, and it is changing. But what was really funny is, you know, and Andrea, you might appreciate this. It's, you know, I was teasing some friends of mine who had an all-male panel, and talking about humor marketing, and it was me and a couple other women that said, you know, where are the women at? And they said, well, we don't know any women that do humor marketing. And I was like, are you serious? Have we met? And then I said, well, how about, and I started floating names out there. And I said, well, how about Andrea? And I said, you know, how about Amy? Have you seen some of her videos? And the men had not. They just didn't know. And I thought, really, do we have a PR problem? Do we have maybe there's not enough of us out there talking about it. And I thought, wow, that we're sitting here, and even the men were sitting there going, I love that idea, Kathy. I just can't think of anybody right now. And I thought, wow, we've got to change that. We have got to change that as women, you know.
Yeah.
We obviously need to market ourselves better.
Yeah. We're
absolutely
marketers, right?
Yeah. We should be able to do this.
we can do this, and I think women like you guys and are helping to change that. If we think about sort of humor and marketing, if there's one big sort of thought, there's so many ways to add humor, and you guys came up with some great ideas. And if there's one big thought you wanted to leave people with, and again, my apologies for the mix-up. That's on me, everybody. I'll post the link. But if there was one big takeaway that you thought, you know, if people can just get this idea, it'll be a game changer for them, what would you say?
Andrea, you can go first.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. No, I think really something that, especially the stand-up I've done recently, something that's taught me about authenticity is that you really, if you share what is really very personal for yourself, you're going to make a much deeper connection. And I think that people respect that. They like that. It shows, it gives you a connection, and it makes you more real. So it's, you know, when we hear that buzzword all the time, authenticity. And what does that really mean? And it really, to me, it really means being willing to be a little bit vulnerable with what is actually going on with you. And and oftentimes you can make it funny, because, you know, I got up and said, I think I'm worried I'm a terrible mom, you know, and it's like, that's like what people are thinking. And I think that, you know, you can do that in marketing as well by getting deeper into what's happening for people, what's happening for yourself, and sharing it in that way so that people connect deeper with you and your brand.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and I think that it's today you've got so many tools to deepen your relationship with clients a lot quicker than you've ever been able to do, and you can do it a lot more personally. So we're used to seeing a face of a brand where we never would before. You know, we would never talk to Mr. A1 plumbers. You know, we'd talk to their staff. But now, and I think that with humor, you know, touching on that sort of vulnerability aspect, I really think that if you want to start using humor, just start toying around with ideas around the problem that your customer has, because I think that's where you will find a real richness that will help your marketing, and that you can have a lot of fun with without insulting your customer. Because, you know, if you make fun of the problem, like I said before, it builds rapport, it shows you understand them, and it's going to make you stand out as well. And if you can do, you know, if you can put together something that's funny, you'll find that people, whereas before you might have been begging people to share your blog posts, people will be happy to share this because it's got an added value layer of, it makes people laugh, you know, and it looks good for them when they share it with their community, so you can reach more people.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think that those are great concepts, and I think the thing I would say is the truth. I mean, the truth is funny. Human beings are fallible. Look what I did today. You know, I screwed up. I kept it very human, and it's okay because we're all imperfect. And I think the truth is funny. It's a little bit vulnerable, I think, as Andrea said. I think that's really important. And when people see that you're really just out there trying and you're human, there's something to connect with you on. I also think there's something about, in my experience, being playful and having fun. And you don't have to be funny or over the top. I think people appreciate just a touch of levity, and if they just see that you're playful and you have a playful side, and you can't get to funny without fun, and you know, try spelling it. So I think if you just can let go and have fun, that makes a huge difference. It doesn't have to be a knee slapper, you know, it doesn't have to be something that makes your sides split, but just, I think people are hungry for something different, and that alone, something small, can make a big difference with your customers. So I always say start there. If funny is daunting to people, you know, just start with some fun and let go and lighten up, you know.
And and like you said, it's a really good way of sort of I want to say managing expectations, but not in a way that, you know, you're setting your customer up to not expect anything from you. But if you can just show just like a little, it's like if someone walks out and makes out like they are perfect, people are kind of watching for them to go, really? You know, it almost draws more scrutiny than if you say, oops, you know, kind of, you know, did a bit of a mess up there, but it doesn't matter because this is why, you know, then people are a bit more willing to accept that, I think, rather than if you put out this image that you're absolutely perfect beyond reproach, the slightest sort of mistake that you make, you're going to find people are a lot less forgiving.
Absolutely. Well said. Before we leave, I want to give you a chance, ladies, to talk about something upcoming. Maybe you'd like to promote, maybe a channel, a new ebook. Let's talk about that, Andrea. What you got?
Well, I have my promotion all along the banner right there. So actually, what we're doing right now is we're launching. So we have launched Social Media Manager School again, relaunched it. We open it twice a year, and it's open right now until October 8th. And it's basically kind of a business plan in a box for you to help you learn how to become a social media consultant or manager or boost the business you already have. So it's, you know, I love this program. I'm not going to talk too long about it because I love it. It's awesome. And we've had over 500 students go through, and we just have rave reviews. So it's fun. So anyway, socialmediamanagerschool.com/open. Actually, it's open right now. So yay.
Awesome. Wonderful. Great. Amy, how about you, girl? You're calling in from the UK, so what you got?
I am. Well, at the moment, I'm in development mode. So I am preparing. Basically, I've been doing a whole heck of training for companies over the last couple of years, and I've amassed a lot of material and courses and resources. And what I want to do is put that all in-house and then make it accessible to small business owners. And so that's what I'm doing now, is working through a whole stockpile of sort of information and materials, and I'm going to be putting that online. So that'll be the next sort of month or so. But if you go to harrisonamy.com/AmyTV, you can see all the episodes that I've done since last year.
Awesome, awesome, and they're fun, everybody. You got to go check those out. Your videos actually inspired me to do a one that I'm editing right now, but I interviewed myself. So they work. They're great stuff. I've got a couple of ebooks out there, everybody, on Amazon. My latest is adding humor to your presentations. So don't present, don't talk at people, connect instead. I've got one on content marketing and different ways and different techniques and tips, some of which we talked about today on how to do that. It's keepingithuman.com. Clearly, I kept it human today. That's my goal. Thanks so much, everybody. And ladies, fabulous. We'll do this again, and I promise next time we'll try to get the Google Hangout on air a little bit more sewn up. But what can I say? We try to keep it real, and we're all improvisers. So there you go. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.